Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to have a look at how the market unfolded yesterday on the NQ and show it's actually a good day for MTPredictor. But first, let's look at the risk disclaimer and remind you that all examples of these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand that losses can and will and do unfold. No matter what trading approach you take, there always will be losing trades. Right, this is the NQ from yesterday, and as you can see we had some automatic setups on our charts, but MTPredictor is not a black box system. We don't just take the setups blindly. Even if they're in the direction of our MTP trend, what we do is we look to the higher time frame chart first. So we're looking for a clear picture on the higher time frame chart. The higher time frame chart is a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So as this is a 3-minute chart, we'd go out to the 15-minute chart. By the way, this is our add-ons for NinjaTrader 8. We also have a standalone version as well as scripts for TradingView. So we go back to our previous pivot, right mouse click and put decision point. Now the good thing about this is actually on the chart in advance. So way back here, this level would have been on the chart in advance. In other words, it would be preparing you in advance for potential resistance. Now we're not saying the market will, we're not saying the market will reverse at this level. What we're saying is it's an area where you want to be aware of a reversal, be prepared for. You're asking the question, what is the market doing at that particular level? As you can see, the market did indeed go up to that level. So if we go down to the shorter time frame, can we see here's our 15-minute resistance. Can you see how the market rallied up nicely and then made a automatic sell on a DP sell on the shorter time frame? In other words, the two things are coming together. We were having a shorter time frame sell at higher time frame resistance. So if we right mouse click, place the analysis on, you can see this gives us our position sizing. Here we're using a 2% on a sample $20,000 account. Therefore you'd be able to risk one contract. The target was down here at this particular level, at our DP level, and the profit, if the market got there, and as you can see it did, would have been just over 2 or just over twice the initial risk. If the market had been wrong and the market had gone up and it had been a losing trade, if I go back you can see like if there had been a loss, there like there, then you'd have been stopped out for what we call a 1R or one risk unit. But in this case, the profit would have been 2R or just over 2 risk units. Very nice trade indeed. After this, the trend was then deemed down because the market did indeed make a reversal at our higher time frame resistance. In other words, the picture was clear. So the market came down. The trend was deemed to be down. This was confirmed by our MTP trend going red. Can you see that? Therefore, after this, you'll be looking for sells. And we then got a TS1 W3 or wave 3 trade set up a bit later. If we right mouse click, place the analysis on, you can see this would have been our projected target. The market took you into a short trade and it would have come down where a nice 7.7 or just over 7.5 times the initial risk profit was available. We wouldn't have been looking at this particular trade setup because it hadn't come off a clear DP reversal. So if we go back to the 15-minute chart, you can see there wasn't any other pivot to do a good reversal. If we place a DP off here, the market had gone up through that. It wasn't coming off any good resistance. So in other words, the market picture wasn't clear at this particular level. So that's why we wouldn't have taken this particular trade, even though the MTP trend was actually, I think it was black at the time. So that would have been a very good result. So you'd have had, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do a DP there. You'd have had just over plus 2R there, and then just over plus 7.5R there. That would have been very good. But for the more experienced MTPredictor users among you, you could actually take this to a much higher level. This is why we say we're not a black box system. You can see the market actually rallied up into this DP high here in what looks like a 5-wave sequence. We can confirm this by looking at our Elliott Wave intermediate. So if we place Elliott Wave intermediate on, can you see how we found a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the high right at the minimum wave 5 WPT. So this helped confirm this DP sell because the end of the 5-wave sequence was coming out in at WPT resistance at higher time frame resistance as well. What do we know about the end of a 5-wave sequence? Well, we know after a 5-wave sequence is complete, the market tends to then retrace into the DP from the prior wave 4. Where's the prior wave 4? There's the DP. The market came down into that level absolutely perfectly. That was really great. What do we also know about a 5-wave sequence? We also know if the DP from the prior wave 4 is exceeded, which it was around here, then the entire prior wave 5-wave sequence is normally completely retraced. So if we go back to the start of the sequence, we place a DP off here, this is where the market typically goes to. Coincidentally, if I take that off, if I go out to the higher time frame chart, which is what you'll do as well, there's the last DP low. So if you right mouse click, place a DP off that. So on the higher time frame chart, this would be our next support level. So when we come down to the lower time frame, can you see this would be in exactly the same place as the DP of the prior 5-wave sequence, which I placed on earlier. Can you see that? They're on top of each other. So the two things were coming together. So a more experienced trader could have looked at this and actually said, well, actually, rather than coming out at the typical wave 3 WPT, we can see our MTP trend had gone strong as well because it had gone beyond our strength band there. You could look to run this trade a little bit further. So rather than coming out here at the typical wave 3 WPT, you could have said, well, actually, I want to run this down into the higher time frame DP support, which is also the DP of the prior 5-wave sequence. So that would have increased the profit to, can you see this, almost 15R, so 14.7 times the initial risk, which would have made this an absolutely amazing trade. So this is where MTPredictor is good. It's not because it's just a black box system where you just follow setups blindly. If you take the time to understand and actually learn our tools, you can actually use it for much higher and much more advanced analysis, where you can use it to anticipate reversals on the higher time frame chart. You then look to take trades in that direction of those reversals, and then you can also look to manage your trades further than the initial targets by using the higher time frame DPs as well. So hopefully this has been a good example of MTPredictor in action, and as you can see, yesterday on the NQ was absolutely amazing day where we nailed the high of the day with our 15-minute DP. We then had a lovely trade, small trade off the top of that as well. We then had another sell trade later on, which then allowed you to run that short trade into, pretty close to the low of the day as well, which was then nailed by our 15-minute DP. So as you can see, an absolutely amazing day for MTPredictor on the NQ yesterday.